order the regular scheduled Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting. Attendance, please.
Yes. Alderman Motley? Here. Alderman Hudson?
Here.
Alderman Wilkins?
Present.
Alderman Stevens? Here. Alderman Rogers?
Present.
Alderman Magley?
Yeah.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that brings us to our comments from citizens. If anybody's got a comment, please step forward, state your name, address, and...
Yeah, my name is Scott Abercrombie. I live at 449 South Jefferson Street. I worked with Mr. Forsey here a couple of times. Apparently I had a water leak at my house. Wasn't brought to my attention until I got my bill for the month of July. I got that in the mail on July 31st. Came down here that following Monday morning, got my water shut off. So it's read from the 25th of each month. So I got the water shut off. I ran a brand new line straight to my house. Didn't bother trying to fix the old one. Had Mr. Forsey come out and he verified that, yep, it's good, everything looks good. Got my new bill for the month of August, $2,800. So apparently from the 25th of July to August 1st, that was 6 days of water usage. There was no wet spots in my yard. There was no geysers, there was nothing, there were no signs whatsoever that this water was leaking. As soon as I found out about it, I got it shut off immediately and I made the repair myself. So I'm just in a really difficult spot here. So I'm hoping I can get some assistance. When I found out about it, it was corrected. I got Mr. Forsey to shut it off and then I got him to come out with the trench still open, brand new PEX line straight to my house. So it's no longer an issue. But I don't know what system's in place for someone else that would have a problem like this, a water leak that shows no signs of water leak at all. So I'm just in a difficult spot. Not a matter of negligence, not a matter of stupidity. I just, for the life of me, don't know where all that water went to. So.
I would like to add that we did have this conversation about this initial water leak. It was very large, and we did something that we don't typically do. Typically, we only adjust for sewer, and I said we would do a one-time adjustment for the water, and we adjusted that back to an average usage for that July bill.
That is correct.
We did adjust off, what, $1,500
something like that, and I
water?
certainly appreciate that, but there was that 6 day span where I got caught.
So, for my clarification, you're saying you got a $2,800 bill. Now, is that on top of the $1,500 or?
No, this is a brand new bill.
So this is another.
It's another bill.
$2,600 in sewer and water from July 25th to August 1st when I got it shut off.
And we did offer to make a payment arrangement to pay it out over however amount of time that you needed,
Yeah,
since we had done the one-time adjustment already.
Interested in that.
Chris, you called Chris to talk about this bill
Yes,
and
sir.
everything. We went down, looked at it, and at that time, the meter was not turning again.
Mm.
So, and I had the girls pull a history on it, and it shows pretty high consumption for that August part 2, which would justify why the bill was so high and everything. I tried to contact you, we don't have a good phone number.
Okay.
So, both numbers we had didn't get through to anyone.
Okay.
So, we went on the 7th of September is when we went down and looked at it, and I do have a history of it I want to give you so
Yes.
you can kind of see.
I can try to reach over. I got short arms.
Well, and then the other question we had was we pressurized it to the house and watched the meter
Right.
to make sure it wasn't, where you'd gone anything under the house or anything.
And I actually went up to I opened your hose bill up, and just to see, had him stand there and watch the meter and make sure the meter was working. And once I turned the water hydrant on, it started moving like it should. So the meter's operating, I know, good, there's no problem with that, so.
So it's just, it's a one-time leak and you fix it the one time?
Yes, sir.
And you get 2 bills? I mean, what was the thing you just said?
Yeah, it called
It's
it
because
2
it's
different
red.
cycles.
One time.
Because it read the 25th.
Well,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you got another 6 days.
honestly, we don't give everybody a one-time adjustment. That's something that's unprecedented. We don't do that very
Has
often.
other residents been in this situation like
Yes, and we
this?
do payment agreements. They pay for the water, we do sewer adjustments.
Now, the day we turned it back on, and I'm just stating what I seen and everything, it was not turning, but you had ran it from the meter just to the house, not hooked up to the house. So if there was something in the house that had been leaking, it wouldn't have shown at that point.
And that was one thing I checked all underneath the house and.
Now, the first time I went down there with you, I swore I was hearing something, but then it quit. But I did hear it when we walked around to the north side with that crawl space there,
Yeah.
down in the basement area. So I can't say what that was.
Well, the day that we went, when you turned on the hydrant, when you turned the water on, it
The leak indicator turned.
turned and then it stabilized
Once I shut it off.
once you
yeah.
shut it off. So, yeah, it ran like it was supposed to, so.
And the problem we're dealt with on that, and by the way, that day we went down, your hose was on. The squeeze handle, the spray nozzle was the only thing keeping the water from coming out, but the hose was on.
Okay.
We never know if somebody has one of those, say the hose breaks, they have, somebody leaves something on.
There's no system in place that would set off alarms or flag the system if there was a,
On that. We
It's
have
not a
leak.
constant read.
Yeah.
It's a periodic read.
well, is that the same case with a city main?
Well, City Main, we're gonna have enough water flowing, everybody's gonna see it. That's how we usually get notified on that.
There's no one monitoring, maybe,
But we
The
had,
only time we would know that is he's seen the towers at the water plant start to drop. That would be the only way on that we would see that.
now, we talked about that. We have had water that was dumping straight into
Sewer.
the sewer, and we didn't.
And I asked you about that too, if that was a possibility.
maybe, it's about,
And it's underground enough that you can't see it, so.
I'm guessing it's about 11 to 14 feet underground and about 40 foot apart.
Did you replace anything inside the house, piping
No,
wise?
sir. And all the piping underneath is half-inch PEX that's less than 8 years old. So, I'm in a tough spot, it just caught me over that second billing cycle.
The only thing I can say is take advantage of this pay deal.
Now, I don't have any intentions of making the payment. All right.
Okay. No other comments from citizens at this point, so we'll move on to the public works section, the street department's activity reports in the packet. Bill, anything you want to point out?
Oh, we had pretty big street repair out on Wednesday, big area that settled out and dropped pretty good, so we dug that all out and reported. Got all the crosswalks and center lines and turn lanes and everything painted. Also redid the sidewalk down here on Railroad, got that all redone from Jefferson up to reclaim the building.
Any questions on the activity report? Anything else for streets, sanitation, stormwater, other?
We are working on some stormwater. We met with the engineer and Lincoln Brown on next year's possible grant. See what we could do as far as like the Pranger storm sewer, paving Jefferson from Railroad all the way to Cox, ditch in front of the high school, helping out on the No Chance, which would relieve a lot of the Campbell Street, Allen Street swimming holes. So we're looking at all that. Got some pretty good ideas. They're looking at maybe having to put a detention basin in to kind of baffle that water going through so it doesn't give it a place to open up, settle, and then slowly go on out too. So I've actually talked to 2 homeowners and both of them were more favorable than I thought as far as where we might have to place them. And then we have another spot that the city actually owns that we could do, which in reality would probably be our best spot, be less noticeable and I think be a little safer too, so.
Good.
we're looking at that.
Good, glad you're still making progress on that. Okay.
I do want to update you on sanitation, because we're going out for an RFP for sanitation services. And if we're going to take it back, state law changed in the last few years since we went into this contract with Danes. We have to give them 2 years' notice that we intend to do that. So, if the council is ready, I can give that 2 years' notice.
Yes.
Okay.
If we give notice, we have to go through with it, or can we?
We can go through an RFP, we can determine at that time, yeah, but we're gonna have to give ourselves enough time to buy a trash truck, because delivery on those. unless we just-
We'll need 2 years
Yeah,
if we decide to take that back. You know, so.
Right now, they said they were probably 2 years out on getting garbage trucks anyway, just getting with everything that's back behind. And then you're almost gonna have to look at a backup too.
We don't have to have it used, we'd have to have like, something crazy not to have one.
Yeah.
So do we really want to give notice yet, or do we want to go through the process first and then we get on the
I'd
process?
have to give them notice.
yeah, we'll have to give the notice if we're going to do it.
No, even if we're in the RFP.
Yeah, even when we do the RFP. And then there are some other things that we'll have to go through. I just have some notes from Sydney. Sydney and I were talking back and forth about this again, and get some permitting from DNR. We have to have a plan. We're essentially gonna have to write a business plan, to say that we can take this back. So, yeah. So we'll work on that.
Great.
Okay. We'll move on to water and sewer. Matt, anything you want to point out?
Still dealing a lot with the water plant, obviously working out some bugs, trying to get some equipment in still, trying to get some equipment, straightened out. Other than that, just some normal stuff out in the field, fixing some leaks and, replaced the hydrant, got it fixed and broke a valve in the process, so we're working on that. So.
Why don't you go ahead and explain the Slaker situation, where we're at with that?
Okay, so initial startup of the plant, the lime slaker was not acting correctly. We have had all sorts of trouble contacting the company, contacting their rep. Finally got some answers last week. They kind of have been shoving us around a little bit on a firm answer. The slaker they put in will not feed the lime, the feed is way too high for what we feed at the plant. So it's never going to work correctly. Their rep contacted me and wanted to know if they could come down and fabricate it. Mike and I, Heather, kind of had a short little meeting and decided that really wasn't something we want to look into, which we have a meeting Wednesday with the rep on that. So we may end up having to order, or they will have to order something else. Still working out the details, but I know the engineer said it was about $125,000 machine. So obviously they're not gonna play nice probably on eating that, but it was their fault, so. Yeah.
So it was the company's fault, we got the wrong one.
Right. They did not spec it out correctly, the feed rates and everything were on the plan, and they just didn't look into it and put this one in, and it's feeding basically for what it has to run at. We're gonna be feeding double the amount of lime, which causes a pH issue that causes way more stuff down the line, but the biggest thing is we're gonna be buying twice the amount of lime yearly.
Yeah.
So
When I started the water plant, we had the same issue. One that was in there was too big. We had to throttle it back so much to try to get it to run that we fought with that thing continually.
And we specified a certain brand, right?
Yeah, Kimco was that's what we had before we started this project. We just wanted one in stainless, that would last, because the other one was already starting to, outside was deteriorating. We get a stainless, that model worked really well. The brand was good, the service was good. So, and that's what Gary Davis had spec'd on this when they did the whole project. He's actually coming up Wednesday for this project too, or for this meeting, because he definitely wants to see it get straightened out like it should. He agrees we need to be.
So So the engineering inspector's right, but the manufacturer put in wrong.
Yeah,
That's all on them.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, they don't make one that size, do they?
they do.
The company that provided don't even make that size, so I can understand probably. They thought they'd slide one in. I'll be in the meeting remotely,
Yeah.
but I'll be in the meeting Wednesday.
Yep.
They're gonna give us a new system, and then we're gonna have that new component in that system.
I mean, the rep that sold the item, he's already told me, he said it's my fault. He sent his crew up here, and they did not look it over real well. He kinda just let them take it over, he kinda stepped out, and he said I should've just, stayed with it, but he didn't, so it's about twice the size that we need and will actually work, so.
So the one that we need is probably cheaper than the one we got.
Yeah, it should be. Cause it's twice the size.
Okay.
Other than that, that's all I got for water.
About the wastewater, anything you want to point out there?
I don't know if Mike will touch on it, but we did, they have started building some cells out at the overflow field. So they do have machinery out there. We're trying to make some operation moves as far as getting rid of some wastewater to the farmers one last time here and get everything emptied out to kind of help with, the process, and that way we have enough time to get everything in, but, it is starting full speed ahead, so we're kind of still playing along with the water plant and now jumping into this one, so.
Are we seeing any delays with the
I've got
current supply chain issues in the world right now?
I've got a meeting Thursday at noon with, the rep doing all the pipe fitting and stuff inside the well houses. He wants to go ahead and jump and get everything. We've got some in already, but all the specialty stuff, he wants to double check and make sure that he orders correctly, since it is such a delay, so.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all we got on that.
Any other? Move on to the electric department. Matt, anything else on it?
We had a new apprentice start a few weeks ago. He came out of, State Tech. Met a pretty good kid. We've been doing, actually, there for a week or so, we were doing training videos with Hubble, or demonstration videos, I guess, with Hubble, doing quite a bit of that stuff. We got 2 of the last 3 school zone lights up. So school zone lights are on Cox Street now. We're just missing one for the corner of Lakeview and Columbia. And I haven't got an update as far as when that one will be yet. Other than that, we pulled wire into the south side of Dubes' property. That's ready to go there. I spoke with Boone Electric and met with them out there a couple weeks ago, and they're having to take it to their higher-ups to see what they can leave, what they're gonna take, for us to go ahead and try to finish that project or get a timeline as far as when they'll be able to de-energize and we'll be able to keep going with what we're doing. Been doing a lot of training with the newer apprentices. Took the advantage of the de-energized line out there, and we're able to have everybody climb poles, tie wires in, that sort of thing. So it's an opportunity that we normally don't get when it comes to being able to climb and work on stuff without it being hot or in a storage situation. So.
Nice, that's good. Anything, any questions? Anything for generation, distribution, other? No? Percy?
Well, we've got covered everything I was gonna talk about, which is good, so, we we're gonna have a little issue down here getting the sewer fixed behind ours. I don't know if we've talked about that before, but he's not very happy that he's gonna have to fix the sewer in the city streets as deep as it is and everything, but it's been like this for a while and it's leaking. It's made a hole. We put a plate over it to kinda, make it a little safer right now, but I need him to get going on that, and I thought that was gonna be this week, but
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Start the day tomorrow.
Excellent. So, wanna get that fixed, but he's still not convinced it's his. He's saying if he sees a void, he's stopping. Well, that's what a sewer leak is a void, so we'll probably be down there quite a bit checking on that and trying to convince what we got, but other than that, I really don't have anything. They are gonna start, contractor's gonna start clearing trees somewhat out there at the Douglas Farm, so that they, when they get there with the pipe, they can take it right to the center point and set up the pivot. So he's opening that up, and I think that's about it right now.
Okay. Any ayes, may arise?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a first and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.
Does anyone need a break?
Negative.
I'm done with this, actually, so. whatever you need.
I'll get it after.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6:54 by my clock. I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. I know attendance has been taken. Comments from citizens? Moving on. Police Department activity reports in your packet. Bob, is there anything you want to point out?
I don't believe so.
I looked at it earlier, and I don't think so, no.
Anyone have any questions?
I just thought it was interesting that we had 12 categories that were down, 0 categories that were up in August, and we had anchor.
Actually, I will tell you, Anchorfest, from what I hear, since I wasn't here, was actually really, I'm not gonna use the Q word, but, uneventful. There we go, we'll use uneventful. I was very pleased to hear that. So we did something right, or we just didn't have the crowds. I don't know, because like I said, I wasn't there.
I mean, that poll is good.
Moving on to the monthly report from Chief of Police. Any questions or comments? New vehicles working out?
New vehicles are working, we've got a little warranty issue with one of them that I'm trying to work out with Dodge, and they can't figure out what's wrong. So, but it's not affecting the operation of it, it's just something quirky. But they're working out okay so far. And I haven't had no other complaints about them, so. They're still smiling when they're driving them, so I guess that's a good thing.
That's a good sign.
I do have one more thing, Dave.
Oh, sure.
If I may. Let's talk about school zones for a minute. I've had 2 citizens talk to me in the last 2 weeks, reference our signage on school zones. And me, I live here, I know what it means, I enforce everything. But, if you look at, I'm gonna use Lakeview in this case, just for instance. We have those speed limit 25 except for posted signs. Okay, I think it's on all wherever you get. Well then, you get down to a school zone. And I don't know if, after these people talk to me, I see how it's confusing, because it's a blinking light, it says school, speed limit 20, when flashing. So, if it's not flashing, I said, they asked me, so what does that make the speed limit? I said, well, it's 20. Well, if it's 20 when it's flashing, how do we know it's 20 when it's not flashing?
I thought they were supposed to say higher fines when flashing.
I think the one on Jefferson does.
There's one, I know there's one, the one on Jefferson, I think, going southbound, is that where?
Could
I
be.
think it's going southbound, I think
Yeah.
that's the only one I see. I wanna look at trying to do something different with the signage.
I thought if they weren't flashing, it was 25 mile an hour.
No,
No, it's
it's not,
20.
that's the problem, it's 20.
Well, we did that because we didn't have flashing signs everywhere, right? Now we're gonna have flashing signs everywhere.
And here's what I would tell you, okay, and this makes no difference to me one way or another. If we wanna make it when they're not flashing 25 in the school zones, I have no problem with that, it's 5 miles an hour. But right now, it's just confusing to folks. 'Cause
I get that.
most people
I
think it's
get that.
25,
I get
it's not
that.
flashing.
I thought it was 25 when it went
Well,
down,
because
so-
we did that because I thought we didn't have flashing
No, that-
signs
that-
everywhere
That makes sense
except
to
for
me.
But
Jefferson
does that seem confusing to someone besides me?
Well, where'd you come up with the 20 mile an hour all the time at?
Hmm?
You're the
That's
only
what
one
they're listed
thinking it.
as.
But you're the
Now, I
man.
have another issue that I gotta come back to.
Well, I mean, I guess you get pulled over, you get up
Hey,
to.
he's the one that makes the ticket, so that's the problem.
Well, it's an ordinance. The school zones are 20 mile an hour.
And if you speed them, they're a higher fine.
Right, when the lights are flashing or
When the
during
lights are
seven-
flashing, yes.
What is it, what did we set it at?
So when the lights are flashing,
75.
higher
75.
fines, when
It's
not
just higher
flashing,
fines.
25.
It still says 20.
No, he says it's
It's
20.
It's
20.
Yeah,
20
but my
all the
point is, should we
time.
make it
But you're-
25 so it's consistent
So
instead of 10?
the reason for the flashing sign is saying
Yeah.
that it's, if you're speeding in a
fines.
20 mile an hour zone and it's not flashing, then you don't get the extra $25.
Right,
Because it's
but do you
essentially
understand,
not.
do you, how it's confusing?
Yeah, that's-
No, I get that, I do understand. I think it should
Well,
be,
obviously, if we don't agree sitting in this room, yeah.
I think it should be 25 if
I agree.
defer to what our minimum is other places.
Heather, can you
So,
answer the question for
The
me?
code, yeah, I've got the ordinance pulled up.
Okay. School zones in the city, are they all adopted by ordinance?
Well, the 20 miles an hour is, I believe that we set the school zones, and then it's, well, yes. So it says school zones are higher fines. I don't know that we actually have designated.
I was gonna ask, because the fact is, I was looking for it today, and the only school zone thing I found was in 1833, and it designates Lakeview, the Lakeview school zone.
Well, they have
So-
horses, they-
Oh, they can't even get 20 mile an hour horse and buggy.
But the 20 mile an hour is not something we changed recently. This was
No,
already 20
I know
miles
that,
an
I know
hour.
that, I know that.
It never was 20.
It never
miles
came
an
up
hour.
until some people asked me about it, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Because that's not, those were not changes that were in our ordinance that
Right,
we,
so
that we changed.
I think we should look at it.
I think for clarity, I think there's several of us here nodding our head, I think for clarity, it should be the same as otherwise posted, 25 mile an hour on the edges of town.
And that's fine.
So 25 would be a standard versus having 3 or 4 different.
Speed limit 20 when it's
speed limit
flashing,
here,
and it's
for
25
guns.
otherwise.
So when do they come on?
75,
75.
75.
Monday through Friday,
Yeah, I'd say 25 mile an hour if they're not flashing.
and I'm okay with that. I
And
mean,
the
like I
the
said,
fine goes up if they're flashing and you pull somebody up, or you get a ticket, it's 25 if it's flashing.
So we'll have to change our ordinance.
Yeah.
So that's just a question, guys, because like I said, it was kind of funny, I've never had anybody ask me about it, I've had 2 people in the last 2 weeks.
We didn't have flashing lights in all of them, so it was.
So now it's
it was
confusing.
20, it was 20.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
25 mile an hour?
People are flashing lights.
Huh?
Can't let people read the flashing lights, it's gotta go.
Well, that-
They're either there or they're not.
I look for the blues and reds behind me.
Life's a choice, man, you gotta go in if you want to.
Yeah.
See where
So-
sitting.
So are we all in agreement on the, if it's not flashing, it's 25, if
Yep.
it's flashing, it's 20,
Yes,
Yeah.
fines are up when it's flashing?
That sounds great.
okay,
Okay, that'll take an ordinance change. I'll draft it.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
okay.
So you had a second? Or was that?
No, actually, I think you covered it up, right?
Any other police department?
No, I'm good.
Moving on to fire department, activity reports in your packet. Danny, anything you want to point out?
Just a busy operation going on.
You have.
You had a smell investigation. You had a smell investigation.
There's always something going on. You all have to come out late at night.
Yeah.
That was a house with 3 dogs in it.
Answers
How can they smell anything, right?
Hey, you make that number 911 available to the world, and that's what goes on.
That was a 911 call because of the manure smell?
Dude, I have 2 phones.
Sure.
Probably sure was.
He thought it was,
Wait, barbecue
Yeah.
fire? That's fun.
Oh,
just a thing.
Exactly.
I don't know if everyone is aware, but the Centralia Fire Department was nominated for the inaugural Tom S. Hurley Award. There were some really good nominations. We did not get it. They did not get it, but
Aw.
you're happy to nominate you.
That's fine, we appreciate it. We don't mind not getting it either. So we're all right, we're all right. Still working on a new fire truck, seeing why it's not passing pump inspection. Donnie's working on it now, so. You know, you got a Ford chassis that comes from Florida, and you get a E1 pump and stuff that comes from, whatever, Banner Fire outside of St. Louis, so. They're trying to figure out what's the connection to get it to do what it's supposed to be doing, so.
Work in progress.
It still pumps water like we wouldn't run it that high anyway, so. Yeah, the air pack thing is, it's gonna be delayed. It's the chip thing, you know, they got it's gonna be a chip thing. We're just gonna be sitting and waiting like the rest of the world on chips, so. Nothing you can do about it.
Yes, sir.
But they're gonna keep the same price? Even
Yeah,
if
we
it's,
done, yeah, accepted the bid and everything.
Anything else for the fire department?
No.
Anything for emergency management, Heather?
No.
Protective inspection?
We have some progress on the Maranatha Church, just some answers to questions. A lot of it has, the Maranatha Church is right there beside D&D Tire, that's the one that's falling in. We've been going back and forth, dating back to what, 2016, I think, on this, maybe even longer. But we got some answers from the title company on how they can go about, because there are only 2 members of their board left. So just instructions on how they can go about reinstating their board for just a short period of time in order
To liquidate the product and be the signers of the deed, basically.
And we believe that that's what they want to do, that's what they told us that they want to do, but just haven't been able to do that, so hopefully we have some progress.
We did drive by one day and somebody had been in it, and I know we called the PD and they went and checked it out and stuff, so.
Yeah, it's a danger.
It is.
one good snow this winter, it won't be standing, so we'll be good.
And is this something we could screw on some boards, or maybe screw in the boards that are sitting over the windows or something? Could we do that? Or we,
Maybe.
The only problem with that, in my opinion, is you're entering yourself into
Well, then-
liability issue.
well,
Because
then-
if you screw it shut,
if
if
your
you're taking
board-
action.
If your board doesn't keep somebody out, they'll say,
Right.
the city put the board on there, they should have
Yep.
put the right board on there,
Right.
and you put yourself, liability becomes a major issue in that situation. Let's get it down. I mean, we're very close, I think, to getting something done in the next week. I mean, I know that we've been working a long time, but there was 3 people on the board at first, and then she was married to one of them, and they got divorced, and she left the country, and so it's been quite a rigor on figuring to chase it down, but the church is defunct, so it's just these 2 that were left, and so they gotta almost be reinstated as a board. I think, is that a fair overview where we're at right now, finally?
and with 501c3s, it gets interesting.
Anything else for protective inspection? Moving on to economic development, Chamber of Commerce, they have the cider walk.
I have a few notes from Jenny, she's not able to be here tonight, but she did send this email. And since I'm on the board of the chamber, that's why I'm presenting it to you. Chamber cider walk is Thursday, September 16th, so this week. Merchants will serve their favorite cider and people can shop. There will be about 10 vendors in the square. She's still waiting on confirmation from some. The Anchor City Cook-Off is October 8th and 9th. Interesting thing about that, it's not in her notes, but there was a really large barbecue contest that's typically held in DeSoto that was canceled. So that could mean more entries for hours. So we're working with, so it's also the same weekend as Second Saturdays and the same weekend as the farmer's market. So we're talking to city crews, and we're trying to figure out a way that we can accommodate more. I think the most teams we've ever had is like 35, and we're looking at maybe 50 if we can fit them, but they're gonna have to have generators. We just don't have, the electric service that we have in the square is all that we have available. I mean, we have some stuff down there where the farmer's market is, but we've guaranteed that space to them, and so we can't take that up for the barbecue contest. So we're looking at possibly blocking off all of Railroad Street that weekend, maybe Friday night into Saturday night, probably at least 24 hours. But the only issue that we had that we've talked to the chief about is where are the people that drive, that park there, if they park their, semis there. And unless we can find an alternative, so we're gonna talk to, Bruce Kazuki and see if we could possibly allow them to park over behind DC's in that lot.
It's not just Hubble suppliers that do it, though. There are people in town who,
Right,
Right.
when they're home for the weekend or whatever, they'll park there.
He
Yeah.
didn't act like that'd be a problem.
okay, so we think we have an alternative for them, just during that weekend. But it's gonna be a busy weekend. Yeah, a
Or,
lot going
there's
on.
a possibility they could park, depending on what's going on at the school for
Maybe at the high school.
the high school and
Well,
they
that'll
have
be
room.
Oh,
separate.
what was
The
the
football, it
eighth?
depends on whether there's football or not.
I
When
think
is
we're
it?
at Macon that day,
Yeah.
on the 8th.
I mean, that's the only area I know that's big enough that would make
I think
sense.
the
You
little-
can turn it and be out of the way still.
Oh, on Saturday?
Yeah.
So that might make a difference.
Yeah, there's a home football game for 5th and 6th at the high school.
And then, oh no, we're, on October 8th, we're actually at South Shelley, but
That's
Just something to think about, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, we can
Trying to find
definitely-
something to do with
that might be another alternative.
So
Chamber
it's
does
gonna be
need,
around the square and down Railroad.
that's what we're thinking. And then possibly, well, we'll block off all of Rollins Street, which we typically do, and they'll use both sides of Rollins Street, but it gets kind of, difficult whenever we can't block off the post office. We could potentially leave the post office area open and block off Sneed Street on both sides of the street past the post office, but, that's only if, like, Tunes and the dentist's office are not open on Saturday. We don't wanna block off the businesses that
What
are
about
open.
down, in front of Friendship Place and next to whatever road that is?
Rollins.
No, it's not. Yeah,
It's wrong.
Yeah.
Rollins, you blocking Rollins all the way to
Well,
Railroad?
you have
We
it
can-
before.
No, we haven't before. We considered that. We've talked about that, so that's an option as well. But then we don't wanna block off rural apparel, and then if, people are coming to the farmer's market, then it might limit their access to the farmer's market
I mean, we
too.
can park and walk.
When's the deadline?
It's not that far.
Yeah.
When's the deadline for entries?
I think they'll take them up to the 8th.
I don't
Do they?
remember.
I don't remember. It's online.
that. You got your
Well,
pork
that's-
butt with you, baby, you can cook it. You got the money.
One by Wonder,
Speaking of One by Wonder,
Oh.
we need judges Friday, or, for Friday, October 8th at 6:45 at Friendship Place. So if you would like to be a judge, please let Jenny know. And One by Wonder
You
is
can't have
pretty.
allergies.
Oh, yes,
You do?
yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot volunteer if you have food allergies.
I accidentally volunteered my son and he's allergic to shrimp.
Yeah, 'cause they can make anything with their card.
Yeah.
She said that there are currently 7 KCBS teams and 2 backyard teams, but that will increase as time gets closer. And then Sean Carrico, who is the head of the barbecue contest committee, has verbal commitments from several other teams. And she said teams tend to show up last minute. We actually have the anchors that were donated for last year's trophies still here at City Hall, so we picked those up today to make those trophies for this year. And that's about it. So,
Farmer's market was nice.
It was fun.
it was good for a kind of a soft opening and
Yeah.
first time.
Park board, agenda and minutes are in the packet. Any questions or comments? Library board, agenda and minutes in the packet.
Amy did email me that she has a replacement for, I can't remember the name of the person that was on the board, but, for the library board, and that she would like to try to appoint them next week, and so she's trying to get me a bio so that I can send out, so you'll have that information ahead of time.
Okay. Cemetery advisory committee? None? Tree board, same thing. Financial statements, Heather, is there anything you want to point out?
They're not available yet.
Those over $1,250. Any questions? Moving on to Centralia Pandemic Illness Policy.
Per Sydney's suggestion, it's been changed from a influenza policy to an illness pandemic policy. So that way we can incorporate COVID into that. We did talk about this briefly the last meeting, but I wanted to just run it by you all and make sure that you're still intending on the 10 days of pandemic leave. So right now, per CDC policy, if you are quarantined due to close contact with someone, you can retest at 5 days of no symptoms and come back after 7 days. So is 10 days the amount of leave that we want to continue with, or do we want to make it 5?
That was for vaccinated people, correct?
Pardon me?
That was for vaccinated people, right, on the guidelines?
No, it's either way.
It's either?
Mhm.
You figure it's 7 days, so I mean, you're gonna have a weekend in there somewhere of 5 days, if it was 5 days, so.
And then if someone needs to take extra time, they can still do that, and they just wouldn't be using their own sick leave.
And I was good with the 10 days.
I agree with the 10 days.
Okay.
And then, this is something we don't want to be stingy on.
Yeah, because I mean, if they do have COVID, they're quarantined for 10 days. So we're doing one occurrence, one 10-day thing. So if they get COVID 3 times, they're only getting paid for 1, right? One 10-day.
One 10-day period.
Yeah, if they're positive and they're out for 10 days.
Right.
Yeah. A couple of other changes that I made, all the changes are in red, is it has to be diagnosed by a clinic or doctor authorized to administer such tests. There are at-home tests, which obviously can be convenient, but it has to be confirmed with a test from a doctor's office, clinic, or otherwise testing site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Okay. And then just some minor changes. Our plan was put into place before all the additional CDC guidelines, and social distancing at that time was 1 yard or less, and I changed all that to 6 feet. Oh, and then return to work, that they need to be released from the eye doctor.
So on number 5, if you changed it from influenza to illness, who has been diagnosed with pandemic influenza, should it be illness?
Mm-hmm. So I'll change that.
No, I think there's another one.
Yeah, there is.
Okay. I will go through and double check that before we present on Monday.
Moving on to the proposed changes to Chapter 22 Personnel of the City of Centralia Code concerning employees. Personnel.
Sorry. These are the changes that we talked about, and you all really hadn't had a chance to review them at the last meeting. So I put them back in the packet just to remind you of the changes. A lot of these are because of MIRMA model policies, and we're just following that. So adding some needed classifications. I did remove this section that talked about training and repayment of training. I feel like that needs a little bit more attention. And we do have some specific language in our union collective bargaining agreement that states that we will pay for that training, so I don't want to overstep and just make a policy that conflicts with that.
Yeah, it'll have to be negotiated.
Yeah, so we would have to negotiate that.
And you wrote a memo that highlights all of this.
Yes. So if you see any changes, or if you're not comfortable moving forward with this on Monday, I can push it out, but I just let you know that this is.
I have one question. I'm going off your note.
Yeah.
Section 22-93, the 4th bullet. What is our existing policy on that? 'Cause I scanned through the document and I didn't see it, but.
Oh, yes, thank you for pointing that out. We don't have an existing policy on that. That adds that policy. So that policy, and I meant to bring it up to our Employee Benefits Committee meeting this morning, it just adds a provision for employees who have reached at least 20 years of service with the City of Centralia, that we would pay for their COBRA insurance until they reach age 65, when they can go on Medicaid. And if that's something, we would really like to discuss it, but if that's not something we're comfortable with, but.
It's a pretty big, benefit.
It is, there are a lot of other cities that do the same thing, and that's where we got the idea, but, so, yes.
That means you have a retire, I mean, like you're soon, you have.
Right there.
Just one.
This one.
You're what, though, like 65, so we don't have to worry about it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, he'll be 65, they ain't worried about Medicare.
And then if they consider something like this, we should go to time with the, was it the loggers or how?
Yeah.
And that's a really nice benefit. I don't know if anyone else has got that. I know a lot of people work under 65, so that doesn't exist.
I was working from 658 to 65. good insurance.
Yeah.
There are lots of people working from 58 to 65. They have insurance, and that's the only reason they're working, I'll tell you that. So it would be a whole work, I mean, we just have to be able to offer, if that's what you want to say.
I've got 20, can anybody retire?
No.
All right.
Do you have a question?
I do have a question. Is this the part of the policy that, I was reading through it earlier, I don't remember where exactly it's at, remove the residency requirement for the city administrator, city clerk, and all that, is this part of the policy?
It would remove it for the city, for the chief.
So that means there's only one position and it still has to have the
No, it would
residency
remove it for the chief of police also, it's just a
It
different
just
part of the
didn't say
code. It doesn't say it in this part of the code anyway, it says it under, I believe, chief of police.
I was just curious, I'm not moving out of the city, I was just curious,
Yes.
because I think.
But yes, it would remove it for the chief of police as well.
Thank you.
Just everybody would
Thank
be
you
the
for
chief,
clarification, Louise.
all employees, except for the city collector, but the collector is elected, so that's different. And typically, the city clerk and the city collector are the same person.
Right. Okay, I was just curious, thank you.
Any other questions on this? All right, you guys may rise.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And stand adjourned.
Hey, you didn't know that.